I see too many people losing too much equity when, a dumpster and $5,000, might not get them top of the market, but it'll get them way better than 50 cents on the dollar. And I can help them get there, and then I can pass them off to the agent. That agent pays me a little referral fee, and everybody's happy.
Hello and happy Wednesday, everyone. My name is Justin Nimergood. I am your host of the Real Estate Rockstars podcast. I'm so excited for today. We have a wonderful show lined up for you. Great guests. Today's guest is Mr. Ryan Riggins. Today's guest brings a unique and deeply personal perspective to real estate, senior transitions, and protecting families from costly mistakes. Ryan Riggins is a real estate investor, senior transition educator, and founder of Riggins Strategic Solutions. After spending 8 years as a house flipper and construction project manager, Ryan gained firsthand insights into how fear, inflated repair estimates, and lack of education could push families into bad real estate decisions. Realizing he wanted to be on the other side of the table, he shifted his mission toward helping seniors and their families navigate major life transitions with clarity, confidence, and protection. Based in Greensboro, North Carolina, Ryan now specializes in concierge-style real estate services for seniors and adult children, dealing with downsizing, estate transitions, property decisions, and long-term planning. He's the creator of Senior Transition Blueprint, a 19-module educational course, and the founder of Senior Safe app, a daily check-in app designed to help seniors living alone stay connected with their families. Combining real-world construction knowledge, investing experience, and real estate expertise, Ryan focuses on helping families avoid expensive mistakes while creating practical solutions for one of life's most emotional transitions. Without further ado, Mr. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here, and I'm really excited to just kind of talk about this little niche that I've gotten myself into.
Yeah, it is a little niche. And, as they say, the nicher, the richer. And I think you've kind of carved yourself out a nice little niche here, especially given the, I'll just say baby boomers, right? But I know it's your audience is probably beyond just baby boomers, but that is representing one of the largest transfers of wealth that history has ever seen before. How did you really, where did you come up with the idea, Ryan?
Well, it all started, like a lot of people within my own family. My own grandmother at 88 years old was kind of pushed to a position where she needed to get out of her house and into a senior living facility. And then my own parents, selling some property and investment property and buying a forever home 2 hours away. And all of, it's emotional for them being retired. It's time consuming. And, I just know there has to be a better way. We moved my grandmother out of her house, and there's 40 years worth of stuff. We're moving my parents out of the house that I grew up in with 40 years worth of stuff. And, you know, when one of the first things that happens is, oh my God, we got to sell the house.
Yeah.
But when in reality, that's probably not the last thing that needs to happen. My 70-year-old parents, they need to figure out, their long-term care plan. They need to figure out their Medicaid spend down strategies, Medicaid asset protection trusts, those types of things. It's very emotional dealing with people's stuff, and coming from the investor side of it, people will take thousands and thousands less on a house just to not have to deal with the stuff and the emotional, kind of roller coaster that's happening during this transition. So I take care of the 4, 6, 12 months before realtor is needed.
Mm.
I hand them nationwide to the right realtor, one who could handle a 1974 ranch house,
Mhm.
and then updated in 30 years.
Absolutely. Wow. Yeah. Having been in this industry for over 20 years myself, and more than 15 years of that on the sales side, I'll say, just like actually selling homes and commercial properties and whatnot. I'll say this space is definitely it's undertouched, right? I've come across a number of prospects and leads and clients over the years who they needed additional help, and you could tell. I'd go visit their home, right? And there's just stuff all over the place, and it's not because they're hoarders even necessarily. It's because you can tell that they're overwhelmed with the reality and the gravity of the situation. So I'm so glad that someone like you has kind of come in and said, hey, there's this 12-month or 6-month space in between, this and selling the home when obviously us agents get involved that needs to be addressed. Right. Because I think to your point, a lot of times they engage us way too early. They're actually engage us in an improper fashion, right? They're not ready for us yet. And then it's misaligned from there. So kudos to you for figuring this out and for really diving in. Now, let me ask you, I'd love to hear, and I'm sure our audience would love to hear, what's one of your best success stories so far?
It was it was a early 1970s ranch house, and, the lady who owned it, she was at the time, she was 88 years old, 89 years old. She had early stages dementia, so she was, still
Oh,
there a lot of the time, but, the her son and his wife were helping her deal with the house. They had a nephew living in the house rent free, and, he didn't take care of the place, like free tenants do. And they were just at a loss. This house had 40 years worth of stuff. This lady had bought everything that QVC had ever had to offer was inside this house. And they wanted, even though she had early stages of dementia, they wanted some of her stuff taken back to their house so that she could, go through it and see her stuff. So we took 2 trailer loads of stuff about 2 hours to the son's house.
Mm.
And we helped them clear it out. Because it was so overwhelming. The nephew threw a fit because they wanted to sell the house. They offered him to start paying some rent, and, he threw a fit. So, with a couple of dumpsters, $2,000,
Wow, literally a couple of dumpsters, not just one, a couple.
a couple of dumpsters, and some paint on the walls, some new carpet in the bedrooms, and some new fixtures throughout the house, about $10,000. You took what would have been a cash offer house of about $100,000, and we sold it for $210,000 just with some strategic updates and getting all the stuff out of the house.
Wow. Wow. That's incredible. That's such a great turnaround there. And I'm just curious, like, are most of your deals like that where it's getting getting the rid of the stuff? In
A
other
lot of
words, I see that as like that's something that probably not enough people even focus on, really.
well, I mean, and everybody's got an attachment to some things,
Yeah.
but yes, I mean that is a big thing, and most people just don't want to deal with it. So they're like, I mean, we're the agent knocking on the door or calling, but there's 4 or 5 other investors and wholesalers calling and trying to get that deal, and they're playing that angle hard. You don't have to get rid of anything. I'll buy it as is for cash, you know, for $100 less than it's worth. And I'm not putting that down. That's a whole business model. I worked it for 8 years. I know, but I see too many people losing too much equity when, a dumpster and $5,000, might not get them top of the market, but it'll get them way better than 50 cents on the dollar. And I can help them get there, and then I can pass them off to the agent. That agent pays me a little referral fee, and everybody's happy. So, I mean, I ask you and, the listeners here, how many people are in your database that you talked to 6 months ago, 12 months ago, 15 months ago? They weren't there yet. Mom passed away. The house is sitting there. The kids live 4 states away, and they don't know what to do with it yet. And as the agent, that's not their job to help them figure that out. And I put myself in that job so that I can help them get ready to list the house if that's
Yeah. Like I said earlier, I mean, I see it a lot, and it's almost like sometimes you see vacated properties that are like or still have all kinds of stuff in them. I mean, I had this one house. It was 10,000 square feet. And you could tell that someone had still been like, living there. But there was just shit all over the place. There was, sleeping bags on the ground and weird rooms that just, you don't know what's going on. I'm curious, the dumpster piece of it. I mean, is that a pretty expensive? I'm sure it's probably not, right? It's probably pretty cheap to do, but people don't even realize it, huh?
It's really not. Again, it's just overwhelming. I mean, you think about a 30-yard dumpster in your driveway, and then you think about all of the stuff in there and getting it from there to the dumpster. I mean, again, you've got other things moving. You're trying to get mom into a senior living facility. You're trying to figure out how you're going to pay for it. You're trying to decide what repairs to do in the house. You know, you want to redo the kitchen because it looks cool, and that's what they tell you to do on HGTV. But the house, and they see in a roof. You know, so you have all these other things going on in it, and the dumpster in my area, a dumpster runs me about $400 plus the weight of the trash. So I mean, one dumpster is less than about $1,000. You know,
Wow.
here it's about $100.
Wow.
Just clearing all the stuff out. Where the overwhelming part happens is actually going through it. I mean, you've moved, I've moved. It's incredibly overwhelming. But clearing out your family's house and the emotional weight of it and the emotional weight on them, it comes off as way too much. And again, I've seen it from the other side. I've bought houses that had holes in both sides of the roofs and mushrooms growing through the carpet.
Mhm.
Um, but just a dumpster, and we look at what really needs to be done. I brought up that kitchen and the HGTV thing, but it's a real thing.
Mm.
Everybody wants to do the kitchen because that's the visual point, the focal point. But I mean, in these houses, it's usually the HVAC and a roof and some little things that need to be done. I'm talking new light fixtures, paint those old brown oak cabinets a white color, put new handles on them, and you've got a $5,000 upgrade for $300 if you do
Wow.
it yourself.
Yeah, that's definitely strategic upgrades at their finest there. Um, I'm I'm just wondering, as someone that you've worked this space for a while, what do you think's going to happen in the coming, years ahead as people start to catch on to this? I mean, how are you guys going to evolve as I guess a company and continue to serve your clients with, the highest level of capabilities, I guess, as well?
Well, I do a lot of this nationally, but I also do a lot of this locally, you know, and it's like you said there at the beginning, there's a lot of people that have not tapped into this, and there's not a lot of people who do it very well.
Hmm.
And there's essentially nobody who's done what I've done, where I pull everything in one place. I help you manage the care, the legal, the money, the house, the senior uh, placement specialist. I help bring it all together and kind of be like a voice of reason and everything when these other 10 things are going on. But I'm going to tell you here in my local market, we're in the Triad, North Carolina. The whole Triad has about 1.5 million people. And we have a group called the Triad Retirement Living Association. You
Mm.
know, the realtors in that group, me and
Oh,
one.
oh, really? I was gonna guess quite a few. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I'm digging my heels in where I'm at locally here in Greensboro and down in the Myrtle Beach area where we have a vacation spot. People will catch on, but you know, locally I'm making a name for myself in these two areas so that, you know, wherever my wife and I kind of decide to settle down, will be secondary. And building those relationships now. I mean,
Mhm.
everybody says it when you're young and you're new. I mean, your network is your net worth. So
100%. 100%. Now, I want to come back to what we were just talking about for a moment because there's something else I wanted to ask you about with respect to obviously getting rid of stuff. Uh, there's a need for that. Um, and we haven't talked about estate sales yet. So is that part of the strategy, and where does that fit in the process?
well, and I mean that's I'm glad you asked that because before we get to estate sales, I want to address another issue. You know, you're moving out, and you know, mom or dad, they still want to keep half the stuff. But
Yeah.
where they're moving to, whether they're downsizing to, whether that be a smaller house, a condo, townhome, or to a independent senior living facility, they're going to have less space. So we've got to think about what your situation is. If it is just you, the senior, and just say two adult children that live 2 states away each, then we
Mhm.
need our senior movement to come in there and help you coordinate. Those senior move managers are going to come do all the packing. They're going to measure the new space and try to fit what you want in the new space. They're going to organize the moving truck, and then they're going to set up the new space. But let's flip that scenario. Say you've got 3 kids and they all live right there in town, and those children, and you've got grandchildren who are teenagers who can move everything. You don't need to pay a senior move manager $8,000, because you've got kids and grandkids, if they're willing, to help you hire, 2 men in a truck to load it all in the truck and take it where it needs to go and drop it. Then there's the estate sale. And I love estate sales, but there's lots of different kinds. You've got companies who will just put everything online and sell it like an auction for you. You've got estate sale companies who take it to their warehouse and sell it for you over time, like on consignment. Then you have estate sales that happen at the property. So there's 3 different types of estate sales just in this one little sliver of this niche to handle. And there's 3 or 4 different ways to do it.
Mhm. Interesting. Interesting. I asked that question just solely because I'm honestly kind of thinking about my own parents right now, and they're getting up there in age, and while they're still very much alive and well and they're fine, they don't need a long-term care facility, at least at this point in time. Yeah, I think about the house that they live in still that I grew up in. And it's a huge house. It's like 6,500 square feet, sits on almost 2 acres. Uh, I see what my parents have to do to keep up with that thing, and it's just a burden. And I've bugged them a couple times. Hey, what you guys plan like long term here, right? Like, you guys, drive yourself into the ground trying to keep up with this huge home, right?
And I mean,
Um,
we're thrust into the bad situation. I mean, it's usually a fall or, somebody gets sent to the hospital, or I mean, something drastic happens and one of the spouses, just suddenly passes away. And then you're the adult child trying to help your parents make these big decisions. I mean, you think about right now, if you had to put a dumpster outside your parents' house, where would you start?
I don't even know, and that's why I was fascinated with how you approach this. So I'm gonna have to pick your brain here probably in the coming months and years ahead as my parents get closer to that age and that space as well. Um, we're gonna transition to the final segment of our show. Where I'm gonna ask you a couple fun ones here. So let's have some fun. There is no right or wrong answer, I'll tell you, because people always kind of there's definitely going to be some sort of pause, I think, with the first one anyway. But just understand, no right or wrong answer. So whatever you feel, whatever from the heart, just go with that. All right. So the first one is this: imagine that it's your last day on Earth, and you can only preserve 3 items in your time capsule. What are those items and why?
Ooh, that is a tough one.
I get that response about every time here, Ryan. So
And it's hard for me to answer because, my wife and I, we don't have children yet. We want them, but I would say, photo albums. I have nephews on both sides of my family now, and all nephews, no nieces. Got 7 nephews. I would preserve photo albums and kind of like a little biography of mine and my wife's life,
oh,
because I've everything that I've done, since I left, the restaurant business when I was like 23 years old, has been moving me toward, helping people. And, I did the 8 years as the investor, and it just started eating at me and eating at me and eating at me. And I decided I wanted to give something back to the world, instead of just take. Um, so it would be photo albums and a little biography. Um, don't know what the third thing would be. I guess it would probably be the past, if it depending on the size of the time capsule, it would probably be the the little boxes of remains I have for pets that aren't with me anymore.
Oh, yeah, that's so sweet, but we did that as we have done that as a family growing up too. Uh, Especially with the first dogs that we ever had as a family, which took a while. My dad had bad allergies, so eventually when you get these toy dogs that are hypoallergenic and all this stuff, then we finally, had a dog as a family. But yeah, we had lots of ashes of remaining pets, and yeah, all the memories there too, for sure. So here's the second question. This one's a little bit easier, I think. I most people don't get too stumped with this one, but I'm curious what your opinion is. So, what is your definition of a real estate rock star?
It would be somebody who does what is best for the client, because on
Mhm,
my end of things, it's not always selling. It's not always getting a listing or referring out to an agent. Sometimes it needs to be a cash sale. Sometimes the house is too far gone and it needs to be to an investor. And on that front, I say I help protect from bad wholesalers. I'm not saying all wholesalers are bad, but I help protect from, the ones who won't close or don't have the cash. But it is somebody who all the way around takes care of the client. And for me, sometimes that's telling the client, we don't need to sell. Just keep it and
mhm,
rent it. Or one of the family members wants to live in it, you know?
mhm. Yeah. Well said, Ryan. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. I had an absolute, and quite frankly, I learned quite a bit here today. Right, this is not a space that I have dove into too much.
Oh,
You
well,
by explaining it, and yeah, let's definitely stay in touch here, and maybe have you back on in the future just to kind of do an update for our audience, if you would.
that'd be great. I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. Before we wrap, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find and connect with you?
Riggins Strategic Solutions.com. You can email me at Ryan at Riggins Strategic Solutions.com. You can find our DIY blueprint, the roadmap that I put together for people. Use me as a help you find your agent, and the Senior Safe app, that also has an AI that's senior friendly in there, for the folks who just kind of live alone and would like somebody to chat with.
Awesome. Well, wonderful having you on, folks. There you have it. Another great episode, another wonderful guest here on the Real Estate Rockstars podcast. I am Justin Nimergood. I'll see you again, same time, same place next week. Bye, everyone.